My name is Sanaya Young, and I have the pleasure of introducing Elizabeth MacQueen. Elizabeth is beautiful, smart, and one of the kindest people you will ever meet. She has successfully completed AP Chemistry. She is currently the president of the TCGL, which is Latin Convention, and she is Daisy in Great Gatsby at MU West in April, so please make sure to go see her and support her. It's been a pleasure to go through high school with Elizabeth, and the class of 2024 would not be the same without her. I give you the one and only Elizabeth MacQueen.
Having learned to do it at my summer camp, I technically know how to sail a boat. I know the terms, the parts of the boat, the commands for turning. I even have a certification. But the truth is, I am terrible at it. I can never figure out where the wind is coming from, I can't dock to save my life, and I will always tack my sails during my man overboard procedures. And if you know what that is, you know that is very bad. However, the lowest moment of my sailing career did not occur until 2019 when I was learning to sail a boat on my own for the very first time. That day, we were practicing sailing against the wind. So to explain that, because you cannot sail directly against the direction of the wind, sailors must sail in a zigzag pattern close to the direction of the wind to get where they need to go. So say the wind is coming from the back of the church, I would sail a little to the right, and then a little to the left, and then a little to the right, and so on until I reached my destination. Simple, right? No. Now, you may be wondering, Elizabeth, you said you can't sail directly into the wind, so what happens if you try to do that? Great question. Trying to sail directly into the wind will put you in a position known as stays. In stays, your boat will simply float backwards, out of your control, until you perform a very, very specific maneuver. So, as I began trying to sail against the wind, when I began to turn the boat through the wind to sail in the opposite direction, right as the boat reached the middle of this turn, it stopped. Right in stays. I panicked for a moment and tried to remedy the situation, but after about 5 minutes, I was still stuck and now drifting further and further out into the middle of the river. And after another 15 minutes of this struggle, still stuck in stays, I couldn't stand it anymore and simply broke down in tears. I eventually did make it back to land safely, but I did so without passing the class. Then, 4 days later, I was sitting on my bunk during a rest period, reading a letter from my dad, which had a few pictures from the camp website within it. Turns out, I was not alone as I sobbed on my boat those few days earlier. It happened that the camp photographer had been out in the water that day, snapping a few landscape pictures, and didn't look too closely when she submitted them to the website manager. For in that very letter, I peered upon an image of myself, my face red and swollen with an expression of terror written across my face, an expression many strangers now had seen. If you're having trouble picturing that, I have brought a visual aid. So we have the original picture. You know, pretty, nice, normal. Great, love that. And then let's see what happens if we zoom in on that one sailor. Sorry, apologies for people in the back. But yeah, no, she's not doing too hot. Whoopsie. Okay, there we go. I was absolutely horrified at first that such an image of myself had gone public, and my feelings about it stayed that way for a year or two. If anything, that symbolized the fact that I was indeed terrible at something I loved dearly. However, the more and more I shared the story with others, the more funny I realized it kind of was. So the next summer I could return to camp. I walked myself down to the sail loft, laughing at the absurdity of what had happened 2 years ago, and signed up for the class again. And this time, I figured out the proper maneuver to get out of stays and managed to pass, earning my U.S. Sailing Small Boat Sailor certification in the process. Although that incident would not be the only time I'd fail a sailing class, I still continued to push myself, eventually becoming a sailing instructor when I became a counselor in training. But none of that would have happened should I not have forced myself to change my perspective on my little misadventure. When I first wrote this speech, I originally used the word failure to describe that one day on the boat. But after some contemplation and a good conversation with Miss Ray, I began to see how that really wasn't the case. I hadn't gotten my sailing maneuvers right, but that wasn't permanent. It was just part of the learning process. Eventually, after lots and lots of practice, I learned how to get out of stays and sail against the wind. Best put by Miss Ray, every failure is a stepping stone to future success. But the thing is, no matter how good you are at something, something will eventually not go quite right. It is inevitable. However, you have the choice either to let go of that passion entirely or put a smile on your face, appreciate your misstep for what it is, a stalemate, and give whatever you are doing another go. And who knows, maybe you'll get a funny story and a hilarious picture of yourself in the process. Thank you.